Hey guys, tonight we meet a medieval cat. Maybe not the one you've been imagining, prowling the alleyways of some quaint, cobblestone village, but a true medieval hero. These furry companions were more than just house pets. They were the silent workers, the pest control experts, who helped ensure the survival of households across Europe during the medieval period. Cats, with their sharp instincts and keen hunting abilities, played an irreplaceable role in the daily lives of those who lived centuries ago. And let's face it, without them, the medieval world might have been overrun with rats, fleas, and all kinds of unwanted creatures. You probably wouldn't have survived this, especially without a good cat at your side to keep your home pest-free. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is at your location. Always fun to see how far this little bedtime story travels. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. In the early days of medieval Europe, people didn't have the luxury of fancy pest control solutions like we do today. The vast majority of medieval homes, from the humblest cottages to the grandest castles, were made of wood and stone, with holes and cracks where rats, mice, and all sorts of pests could creep in. Imagine the smell of damp wood and straw, the flickering light of a candle, and the incessant scampering of rodents in the walls. It wasn't just a nuisance. These pests were a serious threat to the food supply, carrying disease and contaminating grains. Without modern tools, how did these people manage to survive in such conditions? Enter the medieval cat. Unlike today's pampered furballs who are treated like royalty, cats in the medieval period were valued primarily for their hunting prowess. They weren't lap cats, but were the unsung heroes of homes everywhere, diligently hunting mice, rats, and other vermin that would otherwise wreak havoc. It wasn't long before these creatures became indispensable to society, and as you can imagine, people began to see them not just as animals, but as valuable workers. Historians still argue whether it was the Egyptians or the Phoenicians who first brought cats into Europe. But one thing is clear. Once they arrived, they flourished. These early feline arrivals probably came as stowaways on ships that sailed the Mediterranean, where they were kept on board for their natural talent in eliminating pests. After all, if a ship's food stores were overrun by rats, the consequences could be disastrous. So cats found themselves on many ships, their roles not yet fully appreciated, but certainly effective. They didn't just control pests. They helped protect entire communities from famine by ensuring grain stores weren't ruined by rodents. But it wasn't just the ships. By the time the Middle Ages rolled around, cats were making their way into homes, monasteries, and castles. And they weren't just appreciated for their skill in hunting. In fact, cats in medieval times were an essential part of the household ecosystem. They might have been silent and independent, but they brought balance to the household, acting as a kind of natural air conditioner. No, not because of their fur, but because they kept pests away from the places people ate and slept. You can picture the cat curling up in a warm corner, eyes half-lidded, listening for the sound of little feet skittering across the floorboards. In a world where hygiene was rudimentary at best, these cats were crucial for survival. Imagine, if you will, a small medieval cottage, the warmth of a fire crackling in the hearth, a pot of stew simmering on the stove. It's evening, the light is dim, and the only sound, besides the crackling fire, is the occasional swish of the cat's tail as it prowls for any sign of rodents. Outside, the howling wind reminds you just how vulnerable you are to the elements. But inside, you have a protector, a small, stealthy creature whose job it is to keep your food supply safe. No need to worry about those pesky mice or rats chewing through your grains or stealing your vegetables. They're no match for your silent, furry guardian. Historians love to debate exactly when cats fully became the cherished pest controllers they are remembered as. But it's safe to say that by the time the 12th century rolled around, their value was well understood. Even the wealthy saw the benefit of having a cat around. While they didn't exactly keep them as we do today, lounging on velvet cushions, They did understand that a cat was a solid investment for keeping their homes pest-free. The idea of keeping a cat as a pet, rather than merely as a worker, was still a bit of a stretch. But they were indispensable nonetheless. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen we talked about in another episode? Well, cats were just as quirky and oddly effective. While many people were stuck using the best methods they had available to manage pests, the cat was simply doing its job, pouncing on anything that moved and using its sharp claws to deal with the creatures in a way that humans could only dream of. So next time you see your cat lying lazily in the sun, maybe give a little nod of thanks for the ancient, noble role it played in keeping pests at bay during the harsh medieval days. As the medieval period stretched on, the relationship between people and cats deepened. Yet it wasn't always a smooth path. Cats, once viewed as little more than highly efficient pest control agents, began to gain a bit more respect as they established themselves as valuable members of the household. Their hunting skills were unmatched, and their ability to keep a household free of rats, mice, and even the dreaded fleas was becoming more and more appreciated. Cats didn't need much, just a place to sleep, some food now and then, and of course a good job to do. And when it came to doing that job, no one did it better. But the story of how cats were first introduced to medieval Europe is as winding and mysterious as any medieval legend. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians were the first to domesticate cats, or if it was the Phoenicians who took the initiative to spread them across the Mediterranean. You can imagine it now. Phoenician traders sailing from city to city, carrying not just their wares, but also these mysterious creatures. The cats, in their quiet way, went with them, curled up in crates of grain, on ships' decks, or in the folds of luxurious silks, and before long, they had secured a place in the hearts of the people. Cats, unlike many other domesticated animals, did not need to be trained or coddled. They were self-sufficient. They hunted on their own, found their own shelter, and asked for little in return. This made them especially appealing to those living in the harsh medieval world. It wasn't that people were necessarily fond of them, but they certainly saw the benefit of having them around. Cats were their own creatures, elusive and mysterious, yet highly effective. The arrival of cats was a bit of a gradual process in the medieval world, though. By the time they had made their way across Europe, they were primarily associated with the nobility and monastic communities. These were the places where cleanliness was not just a matter of hygiene, but of moral righteousness. With all the rats and vermin that infested the homes of the rich, the monastic cat was nothing short of a miracle. At monasteries, it wasn't uncommon for monks to have a cat by their side, silently pouncing on the rodents that threatened their food supply. The cat, in turn, was treated with a certain reverence, although it was still largely considered a servant of sorts. Even then, some historians note that monks and other clergy regarded the cat's presence as a sign of divine favor. A cat at a monastery wasn't just a worker, it was a heavenly helper. Interestingly, while cats were often seen as a useful, almost divine pest control agent in these early medieval days, the people of the time had a love-hate relationship with them. They weren't always regarded as adorable furballs. Rather, they were seen as solitary, mysterious creatures, much like the land they roamed. There were even some odd superstitions that arose surrounding them, particularly regarding their eyes. In many cultures, a cat's intense, penetrating stare was considered a glimpse into the supernatural. Cats' nocturnal habits and their ability to slip in and out of rooms without a sound only added to their mystical allure. Some medieval townspeople believed cats were capable of warding off evil spirits, while others were convinced they were witches in disguise. Historians still debate the exact origins of these superstitions. Were they linked to the cat's ability to move in the shadows, almost like a silent guardian? Or did they stem from the cat's association with the mysterious nocturnal world, where so many legends were born? No one knows for sure, but one thing is clear. The medieval cat was not only a pest controller, it was an agent of mystery and superstition. But let's take a step back from all the myths and look at the cold, hard facts of how these creatures worked their way into society. You can imagine a cat living in a medieval village, slipping through cracks in the walls of thatched roof cottages, making its way through the dirt streets, always on the hunt for a meal. The townsfolk, as much as they were grateful for the pest control, didn't exactly view the cat as a family member. The relationship was practical. Cats were part of the daily routine, much like the hearth or the wheelbarrow. As time went on, this partnership between medieval society and the cat grew even stronger. Cats were so essential to medieval life that they started to show up in artwork. In the illuminated manuscripts that decorated the walls of monasteries, cats were often depicted sitting by their masters' sides, hunting, or even lounging in the sun. It's interesting to note that these medieval depictions were rarely of the cats curled up on soft cushions like today's house pets. Instead, they were shown as alert and watchful, always on the lookout for any sign of danger or a snack. At the same time, however, the humble cat's role in the home started to shift. As people began to domesticate other animals for work, like dogs and horses, cats began to find a more permanent place inside the homes of the wealthy. Cats, still invaluable for keeping the pests at bay, were slowly being treated with a bit more respect, if not affection. It's a bit like how we treat our pets today. They're more than just workers, they're companions, even if they still have their own agendas. Historians still argue whether medieval society truly embraced the cat as a beloved pet, or merely tolerated it because of its practicality. Did people care for their cats out of genuine affection, or were they just a necessary part of life? It's hard to say, but one thing is certain. By the time the Middle Ages came to a close, cats were firmly entrenched in European households, and their role in pest control was no longer questioned. They had earned their place as the noble protectors of food stores, the silent sentinels keeping watch over the grain, the sugar, and the treasured cheeses. Cats continued to thrive and hold an essential place in medieval life. But their role wasn't just confined to pest control. They were also deeply embedded in the social fabric of medieval society, playing an unexpected role in the lives of people beyond the homes they guarded. Whether tucked away in the corners of grand castles or scurrying about the stone walls of monasteries, the cat was far more than just a household worker. It had become an integral part of both the culture and the daily routine. In the bustling courts of medieval Europe, cats were seen as both a practical tool and a symbol of status. The nobility quickly understood the benefits of having cats around, not just for their ability to eliminate pests, but also for the way they added a touch of luxury to their homes. Imagine a grand hall in a medieval castle, rich tapestries hanging from the walls, the faint scent of incense in the air. In the midst of all this, a sleek black cat may sit on a windowsill, its eyes glinting in the firelight, perfectly at home in the opulence surrounding it. But this wasn't just a pet. It was a sign of refinement. Even royalty knew the value of a good cat, to keep the vermin at bay in their sprawling estates. Historians debate whether cats in noble households were more than just functional. Were they truly beloved companions, or were they more akin to status symbols, kept around not only for their pest control skills, but to show off the wealth and sophistication of the household? It's hard to say for certain, but the fact remains that aristocrats throughout medieval Europe began to keep cats as part of their sophisticated living arrangements. These cats, unlike their working counterparts in the village cottages, were often treated with a bit more care. They may have had luxurious places to sleep, and the occasional treat of fine fish or cream. But their primary role remained unchanged. They were still the experts on vermin. In some cases, cats in the castles were even put to work in slightly more unique roles. As the homes of the nobility became more complex, with more people and greater wealth, the need to maintain a pristine, vermin-free environment was essential. Cats, ever the resourceful creatures, adapted to the ever-changing dynamics of their environments. You might imagine a noblewoman's chambers, where a particularly sleek, well-groomed cat would curl up in the corner, observing the comings and goings of the servants, ensuring that no rat or mouse dared to enter her domain. A cat in such a space wasn't just a hunter. It was a creature with a certain dignity and poise, as if to say, "This place is under my protection." Meanwhile, across the kingdom, In monasteries and convents, cats were also serving an equally vital role. These religious institutions, dedicated to the care of the sick and the poor, often found themselves with the same problem as the aristocrats: pests. Monasteries, with their extensive food stores and rich collections of herbs, fruits, and grains, were prime targets for vermin. And just as in the noble households, the solution was simple: cats. The monks, often seen as the keepers of knowledge and order, knew that these small creatures were an invaluable asset to their daily lives. Cats helped keep the food supplies safe and free from contamination, allowing the monks to focus on their duties without worrying about rats gnawing through their carefully stocked stores. In fact, some religious orders began to view the presence of cats as not just a practical necessity, but as a sign of divine favor. It wasn't uncommon to see illustrations of monks with their faithful feline companions, depicted with a certain reverence. The presence of a cat in the monastery wasn't just a reflection of the monks' practical sense. It was seen as a quiet symbol of the divine order they strove to uphold. Cats, after all, were creatures of mystery and grace, moving silently through the monastery halls, as if they too were part of the sacred rhythm of life. Of course, not all medieval attitudes towards cats were so affectionate. While cats were clearly valued in the monasteries and castles, they were not universally adored by all members of medieval society. The connection between cats and witchcraft, for example, was a point of tension during this time. The cat's solitary nature, its nocturnal habits, and its sleek, mysterious appearance made it a natural candidate for association with the occult. You can imagine, in a society where superstition was rife, that a black cat crossing your path might be enough to send shivers down your spine. Cats were believed by some to be witches' familiars, magical creatures who could bring bad luck or worse, act as agents of dark powers. Historians still argue whether this belief had any real basis in medieval religion, or if it was merely a product of the time's rampant fears and myths. But despite the occasional superstition, cats remained beloved by those who truly understood their worth. Whether in a dark monastery or a grand medieval castle, these small creatures became more than just vermin catchers. They were silent companions, mysterious, self-sufficient, and indispensable to everyday life. Without them, it's possible that the medieval world would have been a much different, far less manageable place. Think of the way you imagine the life of a medieval villager, their days filled with chores and tasks. In the background, a cat might be the constant presence, moving between buildings and corners, always alert, always on the prowl. And while the villagers went about their daily work, the cat continued its work in silence, ever watchful, ever capable. As you settle in tonight, remember the cat's quiet service in a time before modern comforts. Imagine that soft, steady purr echoing through a medieval home, the constant hum of the cat at work. As time progressed, medieval society's relationship with cats became more nuanced, and their role as protectors of homes and food stores became even more firmly entrenched. By the 14th century, cats had gained recognition for their effectiveness in pest control, not just among the noble class and the clergy, but also among the common folk. Villagers, who often lived in close quarters with animals, valued their cats not only for keeping vermin in check, but also for their ability to maintain a certain order in the world. The humble cat was, quite literally, a small guardian of the home, a protector of grain, wool, and all the other essentials of medieval life. But even as cats were being accepted in households throughout Europe, they continued to carry with them an air of mystery and superstition. Cats, particularly black ones, were often seen as symbols of the unknown. Some medieval folks believed that cats could travel between the physical and spiritual worlds, a belief tied to their nocturnal habits and their eerie ability to disappear into the shadows. And then, of course, there was the matter of their eyes, their luminous, glowing gaze that to many seemed almost supernatural. Historians still debate how and when the association between cats and witches began, but by the late medieval period, black cats in particular had developed a notorious reputation. It wasn't unusual for villagers to view black cats with suspicion, believing them to be witches in disguise or, at the very least, magical creatures capable of working mischief. There was even a widespread belief that cats could transform into witches' familiars, capable of bringing harm to those who crossed their paths. This perception of the cat as an agent of misfortune and magic was so prevalent that during the height of the witch hunts in the 15th and 16th centuries, thousands of cats were killed, often in horrific ways, as part of the broader witchcraft panic. This superstitious fear of cats didn't just affect their social standing, it also had serious consequences for the cats themselves. During the witch trials, cats were often burned at the stake or thrown into fires, believed to be instruments of the devil. In some places, it was even illegal to own a black cat. This shift in perception marked a dark chapter in the history of these animals, one that would last well into the Renaissance period. It's a sobering reminder that despite their utility and importance, the cat was still a creature that some feared and misunderstood. Yet, even in the face of such persecution, cats continued to survive and adapt. Their association with magic and superstition gradually faded as the Renaissance period brought a renewed interest in science and reason. By the 17th century, cats were starting to regain some of the respect they had lost during the witch hunts, as people began to appreciate them more for their practical abilities than for any supernatural associations. The changing views of the time, however, didn't mean that cats were completely free from suspicion. They still carried with them a certain mystique, a reminder of a time when they had been regarded as creatures that bridged the gap between the human and the otherworldly. Despite these darker moments in their history, the cat's role in medieval society continued to be that of a quiet protector, working tirelessly to keep the home safe from pests. The humble, independent nature of the cat made it an ideal companion for the medieval world, where people were often struggling just to survive. Cats didn't ask for much. They didn't require constant attention or care. They didn't need extravagant meals or lavish toys. They simply did their job, keeping the home safe. And in return, they were provided with food, shelter, and a place by the fire. In some ways, the medieval cat was a symbol of resilience, a creature that thrived despite the challenges and dangers of the time. In an era where survival was uncertain and life was often harsh, the cat remained a constant, a quiet partner in the struggle for safety and comfort. It wasn't just the rich who relied on cats. In towns and villages, where the conditions were often overcrowded and unsanitary, cats played an essential role in keeping the food supplies intact. Farmers, in particular, understood the value of having a cat around. They weren't just protecting grain, they were protecting the very foundation of medieval society: food. Historians often argue about whether medieval society truly understood the depths of the cat's contribution to their lives. While there's no doubt that cats were seen as valuable in the homes of the wealthy, were they as appreciated in the homes of the poor? It's difficult to say, but it's likely that for many people the cat was more of a necessity than a beloved pet. Even so, the cat's reputation as a silent protector held steady. It was a creature that demanded little and gave much, a quiet partner in the struggle for survival. The medieval cat, for all its mysterious habits and supernatural associations, was a true hero of its time. Today, when you see your cat lying lazily in the sun, or purring contentedly at your feet, you might not think of the centuries of service behind that calm exterior. But in medieval times, your cat would have been a valued member of your household, tirelessly working to keep you and your family safe from the pests that could carry disease or destroy your food supply. The next time you pet your cat, remember the long history of these creatures, whose quiet service has shaped the way we live today. By the time the medieval period began to wind down, the role of the cat had become more clearly defined. As society shifted, so too did the way people viewed their feline companions. Cats, once essential for survival, began to be appreciated in a different light. No longer were they merely pest controllers or silent sentinels. They had found a new role as comforting companions and cultural icons. This transition, however, didn't happen overnight. It took centuries of practical experience, superstition, and changing attitudes for the cat to become the beloved creature it is today. In the late medieval period, as cities grew and populations began to concentrate in urban centers, cats found themselves more often in the homes of the wealthy. The introduction of more organized systems of sanitation in these cities made pest control a bit easier. But still, no one could argue with the simple fact that a cat was the most efficient way to keep the rats and mice at bay. In the homes of the noble and wealthy, cats became symbols of a certain kind of refinement. They were not only valued for their skill in hunting pests, but also admired for their mysterious, elegant demeanor. You could imagine a noble woman, dressed in rich silks, sitting with a cat curled up in her lap. The cat, while doing its usual rounds, would rest in the most opportune spots, its glossy fur a perfect contrast against the fine tapestries and candlelit atmosphere of the room. Despite their growing role as companion animals in these upper-class homes, the life of a cat was still not an entirely glamorous one. While aristocrats were starting to treat their cats better, the majority of cats in medieval times were not so lucky. Many lived their lives in a constant state of vigilance, hunting and surviving in the streets or alleyways of cities. These cats had no fire-lit hearths or plush cushions to rest on. They worked tirelessly, day after day, catching pests and scurrying to avoid danger. It's an easy thing to forget in modern times, when we see our cats lazily lounging on sofas or chasing toys in the living room, that once, their lives were far less pampered. Historians often debate the cultural significance of the medieval cat. Were they just pest's worst enemy, or did they truly hold a deeper place in the hearts of the people? While it's easy to assume that cats were more appreciated by the wealthy, there's evidence to suggest that their role in medieval society was more complex. Some historians argue that the connection between medieval society and cats was less about affection and more about necessity. It was a practical relationship. Cats did their job, and in return, they were given food and shelter, though perhaps not the kind of affection we might expect today. However, the cat was not entirely without its moment of fame. In some places, cats were symbols of good fortune. In certain regions of Europe, particularly in parts of France and Spain, it was believed that a cat could bring prosperity to a household. If a family was struggling, they might get a cat to help bring balance and harmony back into their lives. Cats, it seems, had a strange way of representing both the unknown and the comfort of home. They were ever present, watching over the household, never demanding more than what was necessary. Yet their very presence seemed to make everything feel a little safer. But for all the comfort cats brought to medieval households, there was also the looming shadow of superstition. The witch trials of the late medieval period saw cats, especially black ones, become symbols of witchcraft. For many, the black cat was more than just a creature that prowled the halls of a home. It was a harbinger of bad luck or the companion of a witch. This belief became so entrenched that cats, especially black ones, were often hunted, tortured, and killed during the witch hunts of the 16th and 17th centuries. It's hard to imagine today, but these beloved creatures were treated as demons, their fate sealed by the very superstitions that once elevated them to mysterious, magical status. This tragic fate marked a dark period in the history of cats. Yet despite the horrors of the witch trials, cats somehow survived. The cultural and social climate began to shift, especially as the Enlightenment took hold in the 17th century. People started to move away from superstitions, relying more on reason and science, and the image of the cat began to shift once again. Cats became less associated with the supernatural and more seen as the beloved companions we recognize today. By the 18th century, they had firmly established themselves as household pets, not just guardians against pests, but valued members of the family. Through all these changes, the persecution, the superstitions, the shifting attitudes, cats managed to hold on to their essential role in medieval society. And while they may have endured much hardship, they also enjoyed periods of incredible reverence. Cats were one of the few animals in medieval society that could cross the line between practical necessity and symbolic mystery. They didn't just keep rats away. They became the silent sentinels, the guardians of homes, the quiet observers of life, and the mysterious creatures who always seemed to be one step ahead of everyone else. As we settle into our own homes tonight, It's hard not to think about the medieval cat's enduring legacy. It was a time when survival often depended on the smallest and most overlooked creatures. The medieval cat was more than just a pet. It was a guardian, a symbol, and a mystery, all rolled into one. Imagine the comfort of knowing that such a creature, silent and watchful, was always there, purring in the corner or hunting in the shadows. In a world full of uncertainty, the cat was one small, steady presence that offered peace, protection, and perhaps a little magic. As the centuries passed, the role of cats continued to evolve, particularly as society transitioned from the medieval era into the more progressive times of the Renaissance. The black cat, once viewed with suspicion and even fear, started to shed some of its darker associations, though not without a long, complicated history. The Renaissance period was one of rediscovery. Science, art, and knowledge were advancing, and so too was the way people viewed the world around them, including the humble cat. By this time, cats had firmly established themselves as members of many households, but they weren't just practical creatures anymore. They had begun to take on symbolic roles in culture and art. In literature, cats began to appear as characters, often representing mystery, independence, and sometimes even wit. You could walk through the gardens of wealthy Italian villas, for example, and spot a cat leisurely strolling under the columns, weaving between statues, embodying the very essence of grace and poise. These aristocratic cats were no longer just servants. They were part of the aesthetic, part of the grandeur of a noble household. Yet, even as cats began to find a more secure place in Renaissance Europe, they were still far from universally adored. Despite the growing appreciation for their elegance and utility, there were still pockets of society that saw them as symbols of witchcraft, superstitions carried forward from the Middle Ages. It wasn't uncommon for people to continue associating black cats with bad luck, and in certain parts of Europe, those who were particularly superstitious would go to great lengths to protect themselves from the evil of a black cat. And while these superstitions remained, there were also growing movements that challenged these outdated beliefs. Some Renaissance scholars, for example, began to study cats more closely, fascinated by their behavior and their seemingly mysterious nature. In the cities, where the influence of the church and superstitions were slowly being eroded, people began to look at cats with a more practical eye. They were no longer seen as simply workers, but as companions in a new way, comforting figures in the growing homes of merchants, scholars, and artists. The cat, for many, became a beloved household pet. While it still played a crucial role in pest control, it was now also a creature that shared space with people, curling up on chairs and enjoying the warmth of the hearth. Historians still argue whether the Renaissance marked the true shift in how people viewed cats. Was it a slow evolution, or did the burgeoning ideas of individualism and reason during this time help society finally see cats in a new light? Perhaps it was a bit of both, but whatever the reason, cats continued to thrive in homes across Europe, from the noblest palaces to the most humble dwellings. You can imagine the quiet satisfaction of a Renaissance artist as they worked on a painting or a sculpture, a cat sitting at their feet, purring softly in the background. It was as if these creatures understood their place in the world. They had become symbols of calm and comfort, a companion to the scholar or artist who spent long hours in the studio. While their early ancestors may have been feared, mistrusted, or barely tolerated by the Renaissance, cats had found a comfortable spot at the table of human life. This change was not confined to Europe, however. Cats had slowly begun to make their way to other parts of the world. In the Middle East, for instance, cats had already made a name for themselves long before the Renaissance. Ancient Egyptians were the first known civilization to domesticate cats, and their reverence for the creatures was well documented. Cats were considered sacred, their likeness immortalized in statues and hieroglyphs, and their role as protectors of grain stores was well established. But as Europe embraced the Renaissance, the influence of cats spread further. The ship trade between Europe and Asia carried not just goods, but also cats. Soon, cats found their way to places like India, Africa, and even the Americas, each new place adopting them into their unique cultures. Cats, though originally introduced for practical reasons, began to adapt to the different environments they were introduced to. In the Americas, they were quickly recognized for their ability to keep grain supplies safe from rodents, just as they had done for centuries in Europe and the Middle East. Despite the widespread spread of cats, however, they were still met with resistance in some areas, especially in societies that maintained strong religious or superstitious beliefs. The ongoing tension between the practical, beloved cat and the mystical, feared cat continued for centuries, leading to a mixed legacy that would follow them into the modern age. It was not until the later centuries, with the rise of modern pet culture, that cats would finally shed their last vestiges of superstition. As we drift through this tale of medieval cats, it's clear that these creatures were far more than mere pest controllers. They were symbols of mystery, companions of the powerful, and protectors of the home. They survived periods of superstition, thrived through times of upheaval, and adapted to the changing world around them. Through it all, the cat remained, perhaps unknowingly, a steadfast witness to history, moving through the shadows as both a worker and a companion, offering silent comfort to those who had the privilege of having them by their side. So, as you settle into your bed tonight, imagine that cat, the one who once prowled the medieval streets and lounged by the firesides of castles. It might not have asked for much, but it was always there, guarding your food, keeping your home safe, and offering you a moment of quiet companionship. And as you listen to the gentle rhythm of your own breathing, you might feel a little like that medieval cat yourself, content, safe, and ever watchful. By the time the Enlightenment took hold, the world was rapidly changing, and so too was the role of the cat in society. The Age of Reason had ushered in a more scientific approach to the world, and with that, many of the superstitions surrounding cats began to dissolve. Cats, once associated with witches and evil spirits, now began to be appreciated for their practical, scientific value. The image of the cat as a mysterious, supernatural being started to fade, replaced by a new understanding of its utility and grace. The shift was subtle at first. In the 17th and 18th centuries, cats began to take on a more prominent place in homes, especially among the growing middle class in Europe. People were starting to realize that the same cat who had once kept their grain safe from rodents could also be a source of comfort. It wasn't just about the practical benefits anymore. The cat was becoming a beloved companion. While it was still widely acknowledged that cats helped control pests, their role as cherished pets became more established. People began to see them as more than just workers. They were quiet, independent creatures who brought peace to a home. A bit of calm in the often chaotic lives of their human companions. In the homes of the wealthy, cats continued to be symbols of elegance. You could picture a grand salon, the soft clink of teacups echoing as guests mingled, with a well-groomed cat strolling gracefully across the marble floor. These aristocratic cats, unlike their more practical counterparts of the past, had earned their place not just for their usefulness, but for their beauty and grace. Cats, it seems, had made the leap from mere workers to esteemed members of the household. Still, despite their newfound status as companions, cats didn't stop doing what they did best. They continued to hunt, ensuring that the homes of the wealthy remained free of pests. In the countryside, however, the story was different. Cats remained the silent workers, keeping the farmhouses safe from rats and mice. For farmers, their role was far more utilitarian. Cats still served as essential companions in a world where food could be scarce, and disease a constant threat. These farmers, whose lives depended on the success of their crops and livestock, relied on their cats as natural protectors of food. Cats still lived their lives mostly outdoors, often finding shelter in barns or stables, only occasionally coming inside for a meal or a warm spot by the fire. Historians still argue whether this cultural shift was inevitable or if it was a product of the changing views of animals during the Enlightenment. With the rise of scientific inquiry and a deeper understanding of biology, cats began to be recognized not just for their ability to control pests, but for their overall utility. No longer were they seen as mysterious creatures of the night. They were now understood as part of the natural world, working alongside people in ways that were both practical and beneficial. Cats had become, quite simply, invaluable. This newfound respect for cats didn't mean they were free from all the myths that had surrounded them for centuries. Even during the Enlightenment, some people still believed in their mystical qualities. In fact, during this time, the role of the cat as a companion to witches and sorcerers began to wane, but the associations lingered in literature and popular culture. Cats continued to be portrayed as enigmatic, solitary creatures, often shrouded in mystery. You could see them appearing in the works of great writers, from Shakespeare to Edgar Allan Poe, where they were often used as symbols of independence, mystery, and even madness. They were creatures that, while domestic, still maintained a sense of wildness and autonomy. The Enlightenment also brought with it a greater appreciation for the natural world, and cats, as one of nature's most efficient hunters, were celebrated for their role in controlling pests. In fact, some people began to keep cats as pets precisely because of their hunting abilities. They didn't just serve as companions, but as an essential part of keeping the home in order. Cats were now seen as creatures who were not just cute or mysterious, but truly helpful in maintaining a healthy, pest-free environment. This practical view of the cat continued to spread as the Enlightenment ideals of progress and reason took hold. But even as cats were appreciated for their utility, they also began to represent something more. Cats, with their sleek coats and independent nature, began to embody the spirit of the age. They were creatures that did not rely on anyone, that did not ask for much, but still contributed in significant ways. They were symbols of independence, resilience, and quiet strength, qualities that resonated deeply with the intellectual and cultural currents of the time. In many ways, the cat became a symbol of the modern world, one that valued self-reliance, independence, and practicality, while still acknowledging the beauty and mystery that life had to offer. In art, literature, and even science, cats began to emerge as symbols of all that was quietly admirable. They were no longer just pests' worst enemy or mysterious figures of folklore. They were creatures that represented the values of a rapidly changing world. They were a reminder of nature's quiet elegance and its capacity to adapt and thrive, no matter the circumstances. The medieval cat, who had once scurried about dark streets and quiet castles, was now being embraced as a creature that could bring comfort and meaning to people's lives. It wasn't just that cats had found a home in the hearts of the wealthy. They had found a place in the hearts of all people. They were no longer just guardians of grain or hunters of vermin. They were symbols of independence, of mystery, and of the quiet, enduring power of nature. And so, as you drift into sleep tonight, think of the cat's long journey, from its humble beginnings as a working animal to its place in the hearts of millions as a cherished companion. The cat may be curled up by your side, perhaps still working its silent magic, or maybe it's simply enjoying a quiet moment in the sun. Whatever its role in your life, remember that it carries with it a history that stretches back centuries, a history of resilience, service, and quiet elegance. As the 19th century rolled in, the Industrial Revolution changed the way people lived, worked, and viewed their surroundings, and in this time, cats once again adapted. While industrialization brought with it urbanization, with cities growing larger and more populated, the need for pest control in these growing centers of human activity became more urgent than ever. Cats, once seen as mystical symbols or quiet guardians of homes and castles, now found themselves working tirelessly in the newly formed factories and sprawling tenements, where rats and other vermin quickly became a major problem. It's easy to imagine how chaotic these new urban environments must have been. As people flocked to the cities in search of work, the streets became overcrowded, and the homes, often small and poorly constructed, were a perfect breeding ground for pests. The rapid expansion of factories meant that piles of materials, food supplies, and waste were regularly left exposed to the elements, and to rats. Enter the cat. Even in the face of a modernizing world, cats continued their work as pest controllers, a role they had perfected over centuries. In fact, their effectiveness in this role became even more appreciated as more and more people saw the growing problem of disease that rats could spread. Historians still debate the exact role of cats in the urbanization of the 19th century. Were they merely efficient workers in an increasingly polluted and overcrowded world? Or did they continue to symbolize something deeper about the human need for companionship? One thing is certain: cats were indispensable in the cities, just as they had been in medieval households. In fact, it was during this time that cats became increasingly recognized as more than just working animals. People began to see them as true companions, creatures that could provide comfort and solace in an increasingly busy and often overwhelming world. The image of the solitary, independent cat, roaming the streets of London or Paris, became a familiar one. Cats could be found lounging in shop windows, on windowsills, or curled up by the hearths in homes and apartments. The rise of the middle class during this period led to an increased focus on domestic life, and the cat, with its independent nature and ability to fend for itself, was a perfect fit for this new ideal of companion animals. They were low maintenance, quietly watchful, and happy to provide companionship without demanding much in return. This was an ideal fit for the middle-class family, who were often balancing long work hours with the demands of domestic life. It was during this time, too, that the idea of the pet began to take root in society. Previously, animals were valued for their practical uses: horses for transport, dogs for herding, and cats for pest control. But as society became more industrialized and urbanized, animals began to be viewed in a more emotional and affectionate light. Cats, especially, began to emerge as not just workers, but as family members, part of the household in a way they had never been before. People's affection for their cats grew, and the relationship between humans and their feline companions became one based not just on utility, but on genuine connection. Cats became part of the fabric of domestic life, from the humblest of homes to the grandest estates. It was no longer enough for a cat to just keep the mice at bay. Now, cats were expected to provide companionship and comfort as well. A cat curling up on a windowsill became a comforting sight, a reminder that, even in the hustle and bustle of a rapidly changing world, there was still room for warmth and quiet moments. The rise of the cat as a cherished companion animal in the 19th century also marked a shift in how cats were viewed in society. They were no longer just seen as solitary creatures or mystical beings. They were becoming symbols of comfort and home, qualities that resonated deeply in a time when many were seeking solace from the stresses of modern life. As people began to move away from rural areas and into the cities, the cat provided a constant, a reminder of the simpler, quieter times of the past. In the growing chaos of industrial life, the cat was a symbol of peace, a soft presence in an increasingly noisy world. It wasn't just the middle class who began to embrace the cat during this time. As the popularity of cats grew, so too did their presence in literature and art. Cats appeared in the works of poets, novelists, and painters, often as symbols of independence, beauty, and mystery. Writers like Edgar Allan Poe and Charles Dickens wrote about cats in a way that captured both their elegance and their enigmatic nature. Cats were no longer just part of the physical world. They had become part of the cultural consciousness, woven into the very fabric of society's imagination. Historians still argue about the role of cats in the 19th century. Was this the golden age of the cat, when it finally received the respect it deserved? Or was it simply a natural progression from its humble beginnings as a pest controller to its eventual place as a beloved pet? Either way, one thing is clear. By the end of the 19th century, the cat had firmly established itself as both a functional companion and a cherished member of the household. It had survived centuries of superstition, persecution, and change, emerging not only as a skilled worker, but as a symbol of comfort, independence, and beauty in a rapidly evolving world. And so, as you settle in for the night, perhaps with your own cat curled up nearby, it's easy to see how far these creatures have come. From their humble beginnings as silent, vigilant hunters, to their place as cherished companions in our homes, The cat's journey through history is a testament to its resilience and adaptability. As you drift off to sleep, you can almost hear the quiet purring of those medieval cats, always alert, always working, and always by your side. As the 20th century unfolded, the world continued to evolve at a rapid pace, and so too did the role of cats in society. The early years of the century saw the cat's image shift once again, this time from a domestic worker and companion to a fully fledged, adored pet. People began to see their cats as family members, just like their children or partners. The increasing urbanization of the world, along with the rise of mass media and popular culture, helped elevate the cat to new heights of cultural prominence. Cats, once humble protectors of the home, were now starring in stories, movies, and advertisements, embodying not just mystery and elegance, but also playfulness, humor, and even charm. In the first few decades of the 20th century, cats were featured in advertisements for everything from food to medicine, often seen as symbols of comfort and well-being. The idea of the cat as a symbol of home, warmth, and safety continued to be reinforced in the cultural imagination. You can almost picture a 1920s advertisement with a smiling cat lounging next to a bowl of soup, offering a sense of reassurance in a time when the world was still recovering from the devastation of World War I. The cat, once a silent worker, now had a voice, and it was one of warmth and reliability. At the same time, the growing influence of psychology and the emerging field of animal behavior studies began to shed new light on the ways humans interacted with their pets. No longer seen as simply utility animals, cats were now being studied for their behavior, and the deeper connection between humans and their pets was beginning to be understood. People began to recognize the emotional bond they shared with their cats, and in return, cats seemed to develop a greater level of affection for their human companions. Historians and animal behaviorists still debate the exact nature of the human-cat bond. Some argue that it's a product of the cat's independent nature. Others believe that the connection between humans and cats is rooted in their shared history. Whatever the reason, it's clear that by the time the 20th century hit full swing, cats had transformed into far more than just household workers. They were companions, friends, and even therapists, offering a sense of comfort and emotional support to people who were navigating the complexities of modern life. As the century continued, the cat's place in pop culture only grew. The 1950s and 1960s saw the rise of cartoon characters like Felix the cat and the introduction of the famous feline in pop culture, including the beloved Garfield. These characters took the already established image of the cat as a humorous, mysterious figure and amplified it. Cats, once seen as graceful and elegant, were now depicted in fun and lighthearted ways, often embodying laziness, wit, and independence. The comic strips and cartoons of the time showcased a side of cats that had been previously overlooked, a side that was funny, relatable, and downright endearing. And then came the 21st century, the age of the internet. The internet, with its endless stream of videos, memes, and social media content, took the cat to a level of stardom that no one could have predicted. Cats became viral sensations. From the beloved grumpy cat to the joyful exuberance of Lil Bub, cats became icons of internet culture, their quirky behavior and adorable faces capturing the hearts of millions. It's a bit surreal to think about it now, how the same creatures that had once slinked through medieval streets, silently protecting homes from rats, are now global superstars, their every move shared and adored by people around the world. Historians and cultural critics still debate the role of the internet in transforming the way we view animals. Some argue that the internet has given us a new, almost obsessive connection to our pets, making them more than just companions, but cultural icons. Others believe that this cat craze is simply a natural extension of the way we've always loved these mysterious creatures. Regardless of where you fall on that debate, one thing is certain. The cat's journey from medieval pest controller to viral sensation is a fascinating one, full of twists and turns that reflect the changing nature of society itself. As you settle into your bed tonight, think about how the humble cat has evolved from its ancient roots to the creatures we now know and love today. Whether it's lounging lazily on your couch, curiously watching birds outside the window, or playfully chasing a toy, your cat is the culmination of thousands of years of history, mystery, and companionship. The quiet, watchful protector of medieval homes has transformed into the furry companion you know and love today, still offering comfort and solace in a rapidly changing world. And perhaps, as you drift off to sleep, you'll find yourself imagining that ancient cat once again, purring softly in the corner, ever watchful, ever loyal. A constant companion, not just through the centuries of history, but also in your dreams. The 20th and 21st centuries have seen cats become not only cultural icons, but symbols of the quiet comfort we all long for. The cat's journey from a mysterious, independent creature to a beloved family member has mirrored changes in society. As people faced the challenges of industrialization, urbanization, and the complexities of modern life, they turned to their pets, especially cats, for a source of comfort and relief. The emotional connection between cats and their owners became more pronounced, and in many ways, the cat became a symbol of calm in an increasingly chaotic world. In the earlier years of the 20th century, cats were still seen primarily as working animals, useful for keeping pests at bay, but still very much creatures of practicality. However, by the mid-century, with the rise of middle-class families and the growing interest in pet ownership, the role of the cat began to shift dramatically. No longer just a symbol of utility, cats became companion animals, offering emotional support and a sense of companionship to their human counterparts. Cats, known for their independence, became the perfect pets for a society increasingly marked by busy lives, long work hours, and an ever-growing sense of disconnection. As more and more people moved away from rural settings into urban areas, the cat adapted to its new role. In the hustle and bustle of city life, cats became the quiet, stable presence that grounded their owners. With the rise of apartment living and smaller, more urbanized homes, cats were the ideal pet. Low maintenance, independent, and perfectly content with just a warm spot by the window and a good meal. The world outside might be fast-paced and stressful, but inside, with a cat by your side, there was always a sense of peace and quiet. The changing attitudes toward pets in the 20th century also had a profound impact on the way people viewed the human-animal bond. While dogs had long been seen as loyal companions, cats represented something different. They were the embodiment of independence, yet also the source of unconditional love, offering comfort in a way that was uniquely their own. The cat, with its mysterious nature and silent, steady presence, was a reminder that love didn't always need to be expressed in loud or overt ways. The soft purring of a cat, the way it curled up in your lap, its calming effect. These were the simple pleasures that made life feel more manageable. Of course, the cat's place in the home wasn't just about emotional support. It was about the quiet bond that developed over time. People who lived with cats found themselves forming deep connections with these animals, despite the fact that cats, by nature, are solitary creatures. The bond between a cat and its owner is often a silent one, based not on constant interaction, but on a mutual understanding and respect. It's a bond that allows both the cat and the human to live side by side, content in each other's presence, without needing to constantly communicate. This quiet companionship is one of the reasons that cats have such a unique place in our hearts. They offer love without expectation, comfort without obligation, and companionship without pressure. The rise of the internet in the 21st century only deepened this connection. It wasn't just that people loved their cats more, it was that they began to share their affection with the world. The internet, with its vast networks and social media platforms, allowed cat owners to showcase their pets in ways never before possible. Cats quickly became the stars of viral videos, memes, and social media accounts. The quiet, enigmatic creatures of history were now stars in their own right. Their antics and idiosyncrasies adored by millions of people around the globe. From Grumpy Cat's world-weary expression to Lil Bub's playful charm, These internet-famous felines have captured the hearts of people from all walks of life, transcending borders and language barriers. This internet revolution also contributed to the normalization of the cat as a cherished member of the family. Cats were no longer just a part of the home. They had become symbols of the modern age, representing comfort, connection, and even humor. People began to embrace their cats not just as companions, but as a source of entertainment and joy. Cat videos became an integral part of online culture, and the cat's image was cemented as the ultimate symbol of the internet era. Funny, quirky, and always just a little bit mysterious. Still, through all of this, the core essence of the cat remained unchanged. Despite being pampered and celebrated in ways that medieval cats could never have imagined, they still maintained their independent, mysterious nature. They still roamed their homes and neighborhoods with quiet grace, moving through the world with a sense of autonomy and confidence. In this way, the cat of today is not all that different from the cat of medieval times. They still bring comfort, still keep pests at bay, and still offer the same quiet companionship they always have. Historians may continue to debate the exact place of the cat in society. Was it a symbol of independence, a servant of the household, or a beloved companion? In truth, it has been all of these things, and perhaps even more. The cat's ability to adapt to the changing needs of society, to remain both mysterious and lovable, is a testament to its resilience and enduring appeal. From the dusty streets of medieval villages to the modern homes of today, the cat has always been a constant, a quiet presence that provides comfort, companionship, and a sense of peace. As you lay your head down tonight, maybe with your own cat curled up beside you, remember that the humble cat, with its mysterious gaze and soft purr, has been with humanity for centuries, offering its unique brand of silent support through all the twists and turns of history. As we move deeper into the modern age, the cat continues to maintain its beloved status as a companion and symbol of independence, though its role in society has evolved in ways that the medieval cat could never have anticipated. The early years of the 20th century were pivotal for both cats and humans, as society continued to shift toward more urban and industrialized settings. People, particularly in cities, found comfort in their pets, especially cats. Unlike dogs, which required more attention and care, cats were independent yet affectionate in their own subtle ways, providing the ideal companion for the increasingly busy lives of modern people. At the dawn of the 20th century, the increasing popularity of pets as family members grew alongside the rise of the middle class. People were no longer just seeking animals for practical purposes like pest control or security. They were seeking companionship, emotional support, and a sense of home. Cats, with their calming presence and easygoing nature, fit perfectly into this new vision of what pets could be. The historical role of cats as hardworking guardians of homes slowly transformed, and people began to adopt them as family members in a more familiar, affectionate sense. The early decades of the 20th century saw an explosion in pet ownership, and cats were a major part of this shift. Many people who lived in smaller apartments or homes in crowded cities found that cats were the perfect pet for urban living. Unlike dogs, who needed more space to roam, cats were content to remain indoors, curled up in cozy corners, and could be easily managed in a confined space. Their independent nature made them less demanding, yet they offered companionship in a way that was calming and comforting. This shift was part of a broader societal movement toward more emotionally fulfilling relationships between humans and their pets. With the rise of mass media and advertising, cats quickly became symbolic figures in the popular culture of the 20th century. Whether as part of advertisements, illustrations, or even in film and literature, the cat's image was now associated with both elegance and charm. Cats, with their sleek bodies and mysterious gazes, became the embodiment of refinement, independence, and even beauty. They were often depicted as the ideal companions, providing quiet comfort and companionship without demanding constant attention. Interestingly, this period also saw a resurgence in the cat's connection to art and literature, but now with a focus on their elegance and grace, rather than their pest-controlling prowess. Writers and artists throughout the 20th century took inspiration from cats, and the creatures began appearing in poems, paintings, and stories. From the literary works of T.S. Eliot in Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats, to the whimsical feline characters in cartoons like Felix the Cat, the cat's cultural significance grew, shifting from a practical household tool to a symbol of charm and grace. While cats were making their mark on popular culture, they were also becoming essential to the emotional well-being of their owners. This period also marked the start of recognizing pets, especially cats, as emotional support animals. As society began to understand the therapeutic value of animals, cats emerged as a popular choice for those seeking companionship and comfort. Cats are often regarded as particularly intuitive, able to sense their owner's moods and offer solace when it is most needed. It was not unusual for people in this era to find themselves comforted by a cat's presence during times of stress or sadness, just as people had relied on them for centuries to provide emotional balance. Despite their increasing presence in popular culture and their growing importance in modern households, cats also continued to play an understated yet crucial role in managing urban pests. In fact, their role as silent guardians of grain stores and homes remained significant well into the 20th century, especially in the cities where the rat and mice populations could be overwhelming. While society's view of cats evolved, their utility as hunters remained unchanged. Even as they became symbols of calm and independence, they still offered their indispensable service in keeping pests at bay. Today, the role of the cat has come full circle. Once seen as mysterious creatures of the night, guardians of grain and household, the cat is now primarily known as a companion animal. People treasure their cats not just for their hunting skills or independent spirit, but for the comfort they provide. Whether it's curling up with a good book or simply sharing a quiet moment at the end of a busy day, the cat remains a symbol of serenity, a reminder that sometimes the simplest joys, like the purring of a cat, are the most meaningful. The relationship between cats and humans today continues to be one of mutual benefit. Cats offer companionship, comfort, and even therapeutic benefits to their owners. People, in turn, provide them with food, shelter, and affection. It's a symbiotic relationship that has evolved over centuries, but still holds true today. The cat's long journey from pest control expert to beloved pet has made it one of the most treasured animals in the world. As you reflect on this journey tonight, perhaps you'll notice the quiet presence of your own cat, curled up nearby or nestled at your feet. It's remarkable to think that this creature, once a mysterious figure in ancient Egypt and medieval Europe, has evolved into the comforting companion you share your home with. From pest controller to family member, the cat's journey through history is a testament to its resilience, adaptability, and quiet grace. And as you drift off to sleep, feel that comforting weight of your cat's presence beside you, a reminder that even in a world full of change and uncertainty, there are some things, like the quiet companionship of a cat, that remain constant. The 21st century ushered in a golden age for cats, particularly with the explosion of social media, where these enigmatic creatures took on a life of their own. It's hard to imagine a world where the cat was anything less than a viral sensation, but the digital age has turned them into the stars of the internet. From Instagram accounts to YouTube channels, cats have become the embodiment of all that is adorable, quirky, and strangely captivating. Perhaps it's their unpredictable behavior, their independent streak, or their playful antics. But whatever it is, cats have captured the hearts of millions. Even the most ordinary cat, with its aloof yet loving gaze, has the potential to become an internet sensation. But how did this shift happen? In a way, the internet made the world smaller, more connected, and more observant of the things happening in it. Things that might have gone unnoticed in a pre-digital age. Cats, who once roamed medieval villages and quiet homes, now roam the vast and endless expanse of the internet. Whether it's their hilarious facial expressions or their innate ability to fit into boxes far too small for their bodies, cats have become the subject of endless memes and viral videos. The rise of social media has allowed people from all over the world to share their love for cats, in ways that were unimaginable even a few decades ago. Whether you're watching a cat video from Japan, a meme from the United States, or a live stream of a cat playing with a toy from the United Kingdom, you're part of a global community of cat lovers. Cats, it seems, have transcended their humble beginnings. They've become symbols of joy, humor, and even comfort in a world that can often feel overwhelming. Historians and cultural critics often debate the role of social media in shaping our relationship with animals, particularly cats. Has the internet turned our love for cats into something trivial, something fleeting, or has it given people a deeper connection to their pets, allowing them to share moments of joy and comfort on a global scale? Some argue that the internet has commodified animals, turning them into entertainment for the masses. Others believe that it has given cats a platform to reach more people, offering comfort and emotional support in a way that's unique to our time. It's a fascinating question, one that may not have a clear answer. But what's undeniable is the profound impact social media has had on the way we view cats. In many ways, the internet has allowed us to embrace a side of cats that was always there, but wasn't always acknowledged. Their independence, their aloofness, and their quiet, often enigmatic nature have become part of their charm. Cats aren't just cute. They're complex, mysterious, and often hilarious. Their ability to evoke both affection and laughter is something that makes them so uniquely lovable. And in the world of social media, they've become the ultimate entertainers, captivating us with their effortless grace and charm. But even as cats become internet celebrities, they haven't abandoned their original purpose. While they may no longer be the primary guardians of grain or the silent sentinels of medieval homes, cats continue to serve as companions, offering comfort and emotional support to their owners. In a world that is constantly changing, the cat remains a constant, a reminder of the simple joys that can be found in the quietest moments. Whether it's the soft purring of a cat on your lap or the gentle weight of a cat curling up beside you, cats continue to offer the same sense of peace and companionship they always have. The internet may have made cats celebrities, but it's important to remember that their role as companions and protectors hasn't changed. The cat is still the same mysterious, independent creature it has always been. Whether it's a humble house cat lounging on a couch or an internet sensation racking up millions of views, the bond between humans and cats remains as strong as ever, and in many ways, it's stronger now than ever before. As you settle down for the night, take a moment to appreciate the cat in your life. Whether it's your own furry companion or just the idea of the cat that has wandered through history, providing comfort and protection, there's something timeless and comforting about the presence of a cat. They've been with us for centuries, quietly watching over our homes and hearts, and they continue to play a role in our lives today. So, as you drift into sleep, imagine your cat, curled up peacefully beside you. The world may be fast-paced and full of noise, but in this moment, the soft purr of a cat is a reminder that some things remain constant. The cat's gentle presence, its soft fur, and its calming companionship are all part of the enduring bond between humans and their feline friends. As the digital age continued to evolve and bring more global interconnectedness, the cat's place in society expanded further. Yet, even amidst the excitement of the internet and the overwhelming rise of memes and viral videos, the essence of the cat remained unchanged. Cats continued to offer the same quiet, unspoken companionship that they had for centuries. Even as their place in pop culture became cemented, they didn't lose sight of their core identity as the independent, mysterious creatures they had always been. The internet's fascination with them only reinforced what had always been true. Cats are unlike any other animals, captivating us not just with their looks, but with their behavior. In today's world, cats are often seen as the ultimate stress relievers. After a long, tiring day, there's something soothing about coming home to a cat's gentle purring. It's as though, in an increasingly chaotic world, a cat is a reminder of simplicity. The slow, rhythmic sound of a cat purring, the warm weight of it nestled in your lap, the way it settles by your side without asking for much. These are the moments that calm the mind. Research in modern times has even shown that interacting with cats can lower blood pressure and help alleviate stress, providing benefits beyond just emotional comfort. But let's take a step back and think about how the role of cats has evolved in tandem with the lives of their human companions. In medieval times, the relationship between people and their cats was based largely on necessity. Cats were the silent workers, the diligent hunters, keeping vermin at bay in homes and grain stores. In the 20th century, as society grew more industrialized, the role of the cat expanded. They became companions, offering emotional support and comfort in the face of rapidly changing environments and often impersonal urban settings. In today's world, we view cats not just as companions, but as vital parts of the family, the loving creatures that help maintain a sense of peace in our homes. In addition to being companions, cats have also become symbols of resilience. When you look at a cat today, it's remarkable to think about how far it has come. From its earliest days in ancient Egypt, where it was revered for its ability to hunt pests and protect valuable grain stores, to its place in modern homes, where it is celebrated as a beloved pet, the cat has weathered the ages. It has navigated through centuries of superstition, mysticism, and changing societal views, emerging as a symbol of independence and strength. It's also worth noting how the bond between cats and humans has remained as strong as ever, even though the world has changed so much. While technology has advanced and life has grown faster, the cat has remained a constant, offering the same quiet companionship it always has. Whether it's the cat curled up on the windowsill, the soft purring at the end of a long day, or simply the comforting presence of a feline friend, the connection we share with these animals is timeless. As we reflect on the cat's long journey through history, it's clear that it's not just the cat's mysterious nature or its ability to hunt pests that has made it so cherished. It's the quiet resilience, the ability to adapt to whatever the world throws at it, and the calm comfort it offers. Cats have been through much in their long history, from the superstitions of medieval Europe to their rise as internet celebrities in the modern world. Yet through it all, they've remained the same in many ways. Graceful, independent, and always able to provide a sense of calm in a world that can often feel chaotic. Perhaps it's this resilience that makes cats such a comforting presence. In a world that changes at breakneck speed, they stand as symbols of quiet strength and endurance. Cats are a reminder that sometimes the most enduring relationships are the simplest ones. You don't need to try too hard with a cat. They offer companionship without demanding much in return. In that way, cats are a living reminder of the beauty and simplicity, of how small, consistent comforts can make all the difference in our lives. So, as you slip into sleep tonight, think about your cat, whether it's your own or simply the idea of one. Imagine the soft sound of its purring, the weight of its presence in your home, and the quiet companionship it offers. The cat has been with us for centuries, adapting to our changing lives while maintaining its independence and grace. And as you drift off, perhaps you'll feel the calmness of your cat's spirit beside you, providing that quiet, comforting presence that has been an anchor throughout history. As we journey further into the 21st century, it's clear that cats have transcended their historical roles and continue to adapt to the modern world in ways that are both charming and poignant. Today, cats are not only companions, but integral parts of a global phenomenon that celebrates their enigmatic charm. Whether through internet videos, social media accounts, or their presence in art and literature, cats have become the unspoken muses of the modern world. They've gone from being seen as mere pest controllers and symbols of superstition to icons of internet culture, adored by millions around the world. And yet, for all their internet fame, the essence of the cat remains unchanged. Despite being the subject of countless viral memes, funny videos, and even TikTok dances, the cat still carries with it the same qualities that have made it such a captivating companion throughout history. Independence, grace, mystery, and even a bit of mischief. These qualities are what continue to make cats so endearing to millions of people worldwide. The internet has allowed these traits to shine in new ways, giving cats a platform to show the world their playful, quirky, and often hilarious sides. However, there's something uniquely timeless about the role cats play in our lives. As much as they've become the stars of viral content, they still provide the same quiet comfort they did centuries ago. Imagine your cat curled up beside you, purring softly in the dim light of the evening. It's a comforting thought, something that hasn't changed since the days when cats were roaming medieval streets, watching over homes and providing their quiet form of protection. The gentle rhythm of their breathing and the soft rumbling of their purrs are as familiar and soothing now as they were for the people of the past. But beyond the charm of their antics and the comfort of their presence, cats still serve as something even deeper in our lives. As pets, they help teach us the value of patience, empathy, and understanding. Cats don't demand attention constantly. They give us the space to appreciate them on their own terms. They offer companionship without overwhelming us with neediness. Their independent nature, balanced by moments of affection, teaches us that love and companionship don't always have to be loud or constant. Sometimes, the quietest moments can hold the most meaning. As we continue to face the complexities of modern life, cats offer us a retreat. When the world seems chaotic, there's something so grounding about having a cat by your side. Whether you're sitting at your desk, scrolling through your phone, or lying down to sleep, the simple presence of a cat provides a sense of peace. It's a reminder that in the midst of everything, work, technology, social media, and the fast-paced nature of the world, there's still room for moments of quiet and stillness. Of course, modern cats are more pampered than their medieval ancestors. They have plush beds, gourmet food, and even cat spas. But even with all the luxury we can provide for them, they haven't lost their core identity. They're still the same creatures who once roamed the medieval streets, fiercely independent and quietly observant. In many ways, the world of today has only given them more opportunities to share their unique gifts with us. They're no longer just the humble workers of the home, but they've become symbols of resilience, beauty, and the value of taking life one step at a time. The bond between humans and cats remains as strong as ever, and perhaps even stronger than it was in previous centuries. Cats are no longer simply pests' worst enemy or mysterious figures of superstition. They are beloved members of families, emotional support animals, and even social media stars. They've evolved alongside us, but they still retain the essence of what made them such an integral part of medieval life: independence, grace, and a quiet, ever-present companionship. Think about it. Tonight, as you close your eyes and prepare to sleep, your cat may be nearby, resting quietly or watching over you. The same quiet, independent creature that once prowled the shadows of medieval castles or curled up in the warm corners of monasteries is now providing you with the comfort of its presence. And in this quiet moment, the world can feel a little more at ease, knowing that, just like in centuries past, the cat remains steadfast, a comforting, constant presence in your life. As we reach the final chapter in our journey through the history of the cat, it's clear that their role in our lives continues to be just as complex and enriching as it has always been. From their humble beginnings as fierce hunters of vermin to their rise as beloved companions in the modern world, cats have carved out a unique space in human history. Their journey has been marked by shifts in societal values, from the superstitions of the medieval world to the comfort they offer in today's fast-paced, technology-driven society. What's remarkable about the cat is its resilience. Despite the many changes that have swept through history, plagues, wars, and social upheavals, cats have always remained adaptable, finding new ways to thrive in whatever environment they find themselves. The medieval cat may have been a mysterious creature, guarding homes and castles from pests. But the modern cat, while still performing the same duties, is now seen as a symbol of comfort and companionship. They have survived the witch hunts, the rise of scientific reasoning, and the explosive growth of the digital age, all while maintaining the qualities that make them so unique. In the present day, the relationship between humans and cats has come full circle. No longer just seen as functional workers, cats are now cherished as emotional companions. They're there for us when we need a moment of quiet, when we need comfort after a long day, or simply when we need a reminder that life doesn't always have to be fast and frantic. The cat has transformed into more than just a pet. It's a partner in our daily lives, a reminder that sometimes the simplest joys are the most meaningful. As you prepare to rest tonight, remember that the cat's presence in your life is more than just a part of your routine. It's a connection to thousands of years of history. The same creatures that prowled the streets of medieval villages, the same companions that watched over ancient grain stores, are now sitting at your feet, curling up beside you in your home. They are quiet witnesses to the passage of time, holding within them a history of mystery, grace, and resilience. Imagine your cat, nestled in the corner of your room, its soft purring filling the silence of the night. It's a peaceful, comforting sound, a gentle reminder that no matter what the world brings, some things remain constant. The cat has always been here, quietly watching over us, providing a sense of calm in the chaos of life. And as you close your eyes tonight, perhaps you'll feel the same quiet presence of your feline companion, offering you the same comfort and peace it has offered to countless generations before you. In a world that is always changing, it's comforting to know that the cat, with its quiet elegance and independence, will always be there. The cat has survived centuries of change, from ancient Egypt to the medieval castles of Europe to the modern homes of today. And through it all, one thing remains true. The cat continues to be a companion, a protector, and a reminder that even in the most uncertain times, there is always comfort to be found in the quiet presence of a furry friend. Now, as the night deepens and the world outside grows quieter, allow yourself to drift off to sleep. Rest easy, knowing that the cat, whether it's by your side or simply in your thoughts, is still quietly watching over you. Their journey through history has been long, but in this moment, it's enough to know that they are here, in this time, offering the same simple comfort that they have for centuries.